Not too long ago, skinny little Mary was sick and tired of being skinny little Mary. She wanted to get thick and snatched and juicy, stomach on flat, booty on fat, and so she embarked on her journey of getting snatched. She learned how to train properly, she was eating her body weight in food, she dedicated everything to the gym. Gym was life. And indeed, Mary got thick and juicy. But she never got her dream physique. And today we're talking about why. Today I want to talk about the dark side behind female bodybuilding. I mean, we always talk about the positives, the mental health, the stamina, the discipline, the gaining upper body strength, the empowerment, the confidence. But can bodybuilding ever turn bad? Can you end up in a toxic, ego-driven cycle that very much leads to dissatisfaction, burnout, and a loss of identity? I ain't heard nobody talk about that. But today we're going to go there. So buckle in, kids, because we got a lot of road to cover. Specifically, I want to take you through my journey from being an obsessed gym junkie to completely burning out and falling out of love with the gym and quitting altogether, only to reignite my passion and implement some much needed lessons along the way. Now, if you are a beginner and you haven't experienced your first beef with the gym, you're in the honeymoon phase, so to speak, I am so happy for you. I wish you all the best. But if you are a seasoned lifter, you got a little bit of skin in the game, you're married to the iron, so to speak, then I'm pretty sure you understand where I come from when I say that the gym may seem like the perfect addition to your life, but she got issues too. So please take what I say with a grain of salt. And I hope that you never experience what I went through, but I also hope that you take into account the lessons that I've learned along the way so you don't have to make the same mistakes yourself. All right, so I'm gonna just get heavy hitting from the jump. If you think about the core of what bodybuilding is, it's pretty problematic. I mean, let's just sit for a moment and analyze what bodybuilding is. It is striving for a physique that you don't currently have. It is an art form where you are aiming to add mass and symmetry and tone and definition, all to improve one's physique. Like, judging in bodybuilding is literally a form of comparison where you're comparing a person's physique to the pile of muscles standing next to them. A competitive sport that is rooted in aesthetics sets you up for a lifetime of vanity and disappointment. It's about what you look like, not what you can do, like every other sport, whether it's powerlifting, CrossFit, MMA. It rewards people based on how they look. And yes, it's true that bodybuilding is also a sign of a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes. There's a sheer amount of dedication and willpower and commitment to build such an amazing physique. But let's be real, two competitors could put in the same amount of work for the same amount of time with the same levels of dedication and commitment, and yet because one person has the genetic advantage of better muscle bellies and striations and symmetry and size, they take home the crown. Inherently, this is problematic. Now, to be fair, that's not the only reason why people lift. It's to get stronger, fitter, healthier, happier. I get all of that. And I guess that's where we've got to distinguish between weightlifting and bodybuilding. But if we're being honest here, the number one reason why people head to the gym and start bodybuilding is for aesthetics. Like, I'm a coach. I think I can speak with a bit of authority on this topic. Every single client that comes to me, 9 out of 10 clients that come to me come with the number one priority being aesthetics, and then maybe health and mental health come in at priority 2 and 3. Now, that's not to say that being aesthetically driven is inherently wrong. I mean, we are visual creatures, and one could argue that the visual cues that we get from our aesthetics inform our health status. So there's almost this evolutionary benefit where we are deterred from getting too fat or too skinny because there's an underlying problem, and then that reduces our chances of survival and passing on our seed. It's more so what being purely aesthetics driven leads to in the long term. And if you are a competitive bodybuilder, you can't tell me that aesthetics aren't number one to you. Okay, so I can only speak from my own experience here, and what I will say is this: it made me a very vain and ungrateful person. I know that's a very bold statement, so please let me explain. So at the start of my journey, I was making hella progress and I was so happy. I was gaining weight, I was lifting more, everything was growing, and I was stoked about it. I loved the physique that I was building. I built strength, stamina, discipline, confidence, all of that good shit. And naturally, my confidence grew as a result. But in hindsight, something that I didn't notice before that I discounted was the fact that my confidence was directly related to how much progress that I made. I was getting dopamine hits with every centimeter that went up, every PB that was lifted, every muscle that popped. So when my progress started to plateau, so did my confidence. Just like anything, I became desensitized to that dopamine hit, and I had to essentially increase the dose so that I could get the same stimulus. And that's just like anything that hijacks your reward systems, whether it be drugs or alcohol or sugar. And I didn't realize that because I was so focused on progress, I had wired my brain to only be happy when I saw progress. And this is an issue because, as any gym junkie will know, you're going to plateau many, many times. And it got to a point where that 1 or 2 kilo PB no longer gave me that jolt of excitement like the 10 kilo PBs that I used to get when I first started. I even started to discredit myself. Like, my glutes would go up 1 centimeter in month 6 compared to 4 centimeters in month 3. And I would literally just say, oh, that's not good enough. Or I would look at a girl who had grown like crazy and say, I train harder than her. Why is she growing faster than I am? And it got to a point where I was no longer satisfied. Why? As I started to reach my goals, naturally, I set new ones. But I never stopped to celebrate just how far I'd come. And I found myself on this hamster wheel of the never-ending pursuit of more. And I also had really unrealistic expectations. Like, obviously, it's going to take me a lot longer to grow in my 3rd year of training than my 1st year of training. I just expected my progress to be linear. So I would be growing and progressing bit by bit, but oh, my rear delts are lagging. I want that 3D shape. And I'd be dissatisfied even though my shoulders had grown. Like, I don't get why I was so unhappy with what I had. And I think it's because I attached far too much value to my aesthetics. Like, it's an inevitable part of being a bodybuilder. Your vanity metrics are going to go up. And I scrutinized every single detail of my body, and I literally fabricated my own body dysmorphia. It's my fault because I was not satisfied with the body that I had, and I did not keep myself in check. Part of this sport is being really real with yourself and ensuring that your ego doesn't get the better of you. And honestly, I look back now and think, what a shame. Like, I was in peak physique. I looked shredded and jacked at the same time. And I had a really nice physique, and I didn't even get to enjoy it that much, which leads me to my next point. That dream physique rarely ever materializes for about 90% of the population. I don't know if y'all have heard this. Actually, you definitely have heard this. The gym is the fairest place in the world. I'm sure you've heard that phrase thrown about on Instagram and TikTok and just the internet a whole bunch. And I'm gonna just say what needs to be said. It is bullshit, cap, lies, falsehood, folly. And I would tell you why. The gym favors the girls who start off skinny over the girls who start off fat. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. The gym continues to favor the skinny girls who bulk up for an entire year over the girls who spent a year losing weight and now they want to start a bulk and they are terrified of gaining fat again. But they know they have to go into a bulk so that they can build a decent rig. And as a result, they have to be very, very careful not to gain fat too quickly. And when they do gain fat, it just doesn't look as good compared to the cheerleader from high school. Tell me I ain't spitting facts right now. I mean, do I even need to bring up black people? Like, you'll see the average white man spend 3 years just to look like a prepubescent African American who's never touched a dumbbell. I be seeing the baddies of Instagram doing 6 months of partial ranges of motion and booty banded workouts, and they look like they've been lifting since they came out of the womb. The point is, genetics and epigenetics play a huge role, and that does not make the gym the fairest place in the world. You don't always get out what you put in. Some of the hardest and most consistent lifters that I know work harder than the average person to build the tiniest bit of muscle by the end of the year. It's like the sport chooses us, not the other way around. So I really don't like that phrase that the gym is the fairest place in the world. It's not. It is just like everything else. There are going to be unfair advantages, but hard work does always pay off in differing amounts. So everybody's trying to chase this ideal dream physique, trying to look like Muscle Mommy or like some anime character. But the issue is, it's a pipe dream because you've already lost before you started. It is unrealistic for most people. Perhaps if we had some advanced technology that scans our bodies and creates a computer model that includes, your muscle diameters and how sensitive your mTOR signaling pathways are and your genetic potential and your stress and sleep status, and computed all of that with AI or whatever and spit out an image of what your ideal dream physique would look like, then maybe people would have more realistic expectations. I wish that shit existed, and I hope that at least my children will be alive for that, so they don't have to go through what I went through, because we would have a different end goal tailored to us, and then we would be a lot more satisfied by the end of the day. Unfortunately though, the technology is just not there yet, and so we all look to the same inspiration, the same dream body, And 90% of us, if not more, are going to end up disappointed. So again, it takes a very wise and self-aware person to realize that they're probably not going to build this unrealistic physique. Cannot say that I was one of those people. I genuinely was so delusional to the point where I thought I would walk around looking like Laura Lee Chap with an extra 10 kilos on her. Yeah, I actually thought I was capable of that. But you know what? Even if you do have a decent rig and great genetics, let me let you in on something. The work and the sacrifices required to reach that genetic potential, again, is not realistic for most. So you could have, Thor level genetics and crazy potential, but if you're not willing to sacrifice pretty much everything that you know and love, you're probably still not going to get there. Sustaining a certain level of hard work for a really long time is incredibly taxing, incredibly difficult to maintain, and really freaking expensive, time and money-wise. I mean, especially as a female, a lot of these bodybuilding goals go directly against your health status and your fertility. To get to that low body fat percentage, to build that amount of muscle, you're gonna have to sacrifice some womanhood. You're probably gonna lose your period. You're probably gonna need some Mexican supplements to boost your testosterone concentrations, if you get what I mean. And at the end of the day, the long-term risks for most people are just not worth it. People with the best physiques, with the most genetic potential, and even with performance-enhancing drugs still have to work super, super hard and still have to sacrifice so much in life with extreme discipline. Your dream physique has a cost. And I don't think people realize that. Expectations are warped, okay? Do you realize how hard you're gonna work? Do you realize how much you have to give up? Do you realize that you will have to say no to eating out and alcohol very, very often? And you're gonna have to be asleep by 8 or 9 p.m. and you can't miss a single gym session. And you know this is gonna go on for many, many years. Having your dream physique is like being a billionaire. Everybody says they wanna be a billionaire, but when you really think about it, you've got crazy work hours, no work-life balance, walking around with a full security detail because you don't have any safety, constantly worrying about being ripped off or losing your money, and the stakes are so high, and there's fame to deal with, you've got employees and investors and clients and banks to deal with. You are at a point where you can't even enjoy your wealth because of how stressful it is to have it. And for most people, it's just not worth it. Anything incredible comes with a cost. So include that in your expectations when you are striving to build this dream physique. Okay, this next point is definitely going to piss some people off. It is so controversial, but I have to say it because it's never been said. Bodybuilding makes you so out of touch with reality, specifically regarding beauty standards. If you think about it, the dream physique for a lot of female lifters is probably, the X proportions that we see in wellness competitors, large back and glutes, small waist, 3D shoulders, pop in quads, all of that jazz. If I'm being honest, objectively speaking, and please don't come for me, most people would agree that female bodybuilders do not look that good in the real world. Outside of the bodybuilding context, off stage, in real life, they look kind of freaky. It's very similar to the birthday makeup that everyone makes fun of. It looks great on camera, but you'd be looking like a clown in real life. Bikini competitors don't look feminine and voluptuous. They look rock solid, alien, and masculine. From a bodybuilding perspective, freaking amazing. Like, I love Laura Lee Chap's physique, as does everyone, but I can guarantee that if I looked at her and I'd never touched a dumbbell before, I'd be like, she looks like a freak. I mean, to be fair, the bikini division nowadays are opting for a thicker physique. Wellness competitors are rising in popularity as well because, we have evolved and we do prefer a thicker and curvier woman now. So we can see that bodybuilding standards are continuing to change as well. But the point is, women don't need to beat themselves up because they're not that low in body fat or they don't have that much muscle. You can still look great. I was so out of touch with reality that when people would compliment me, people outside of a gym setting, and say, oh, you look so strong, you look like you lift, you look amazing, I would literally be like, oh, what? I don't agree with anything that you just said. I didn't realize how much muscle I had because I was comparing myself to these freak standards. I didn't realize how great I looked even though I was thicker and curvier because my standards of beauty we're on a whole nother planet. I've had to retrain myself to look at my physique through the eyes of a normal person. I look at myself and I say, okay, I've got a nice ass, I've got a small waist, I've got those hourglass aesthetics, nice lats, I'm thick in the right places, I can lift like a badass, I'm strong. And it's funny because I would say that right now I'm the weakest and the most unfit that I've been in maybe 3 or 4 years. Whereas when I was in my peak conditioning, peak physique, I would look at that body and think, too much fat around my arms and legs. Cellulite. Oh, I don't have a strong chest or strong shoulders. My glutes just look big because of the fat, not because of the muscle. I hate how long my legs are because I can't squat ass to grass. Like, that's literally how I would dissect and analyze my body. And That is so abnormal. That is so dysfunctional. No person is going to look at you outside of the gym and think that. You are in a bubble. You are so out of touch with reality that sometimes you need to take a break from bodybuilding to bring yourself back to what everybody else would deem a nice physique. I'm not saying don't strive for a better physique. I'm just saying don't get caught up in the tiny details, okay? Don't strive for the striations and the rock solidness that you see in female bodybuilders, and be loving and impressed with the physique that you're creating now. And if you haven't already figured by this point in the video, my self-esteem was so closely tied to bodybuilding that when I quit bodybuilding, or I wasn't getting much out of it, it absolutely shattered my self-esteem. And I really felt lost. I identified as a lifter, a coach, a hard worker, a bodybuilder for so many years that when I stopped progressing, when I started to burn out, and I really started to feel like the gym became a chore for me, I felt like I was losing who I was. It all started with being so emotionally tied to outcomes. So if I had a bad session or a bad week, I would let it dictate my mood. I wouldn't allow myself to go into the gym and just take it easy if I really felt it. Like, it was very, very rare that happened. All of 2022, I was going through some pretty bad health problems, which I'll talk about at a later date. But it got to a point where I would leave the gym feeling like I was about to throw up. I was so dizzy. I would sometimes spend days in bed after a training session. Why? Because I didn't know how to pull back. I didn't know how to chill. I associated myself with being a hard worker, and therefore that was the only thing I allowed myself to do. Work hard, push through the pain, push through all the warning signs that my body was telling me to chill the fuck out. And even though one could look at that and say, oh yeah, this girl's got a will of steel, she can push through even though her body's failing her, I would say that's really freaking unhealthy, because I literally failed my body. I would not allow myself to not train close to failure, to not add weight over time, to not skip a day. Like, it was a pretty unhealthy relationship with the gym. And so when I completely burnt out and my body literally failed me, like it just had enough of a year of these kinds of training sessions. And I literally would be shaking on a warm-up set and my nervous system had completely shut down. I was forced to take a couple of months off the gym, like entirely. Even like any simple exercise like walking, I couldn't do. I was literally bedridden for like 2 months. I couldn't move. And that was when my body image was at its worst. I felt like a fraud. I felt like, how can I coach clients when I can't even lift myself? And I just felt like my life was on hold. I didn't know who I was outside of the gym setting, because it's tied to my hobbies, it's tied to my career, it's tied to my community. And that was when I really hit rock bottom. And this is where I began to reflect on all of the things that I've been talking about in this video. And I think that it was so necessary, obviously for the physical break, but also the time to really mentally reconnect with why I'm going to the gym. So this is what got me to fall back in love with the gym, because I genuinely thought I would never love it again. All 2022, I hated the gym. I'm sitting here today and I feel more in love with the gym than ever. I'm back on my honeymoon phase. So the solution to keeping your love for this sport, let's get into that. Now look, I've been shitting on bodybuilding for a hot ass minute now. And look, if you're here at this point, it's probably because you can relate to something that I've said along the way. But I just want to let you know that not all hope is lost, okay? Like I said, still love the gym. I still have aesthetic goals. I still am addicted to progress. But the perspective shift is everything. And this is what it is. I stopped taking it so damn seriously. I took myself so damn seriously. And it's like, yo, it's not a university degree. It's not a high stakes job. I'm not even a bikini competitor. I literally just do this for fun. Like, why am I beating myself down and like creating such an unhealthy relationship with something that's supposed to elevate my life? I think we forget that it's supposed to be fun. Like, I get that working hard and, demanding more from yourself and, shifting the goalposts as you get better are all part of the experience of being a bodybuilder. But sometimes we forget that it's supposed to enhance our life. So for example, it wasn't enhancing my life because it was affecting my health. I had to put my health first. It was a very, very hard thing for me, but taking those 2 months off the gym and then building back up very, very slowly, purposely not going hard at the gym, purposely doing no barbell work whatsoever and just machines because it wasn't as fatiguing. Doing all of that was very, very difficult. Purposely pulling back required more discipline than pushing harder, because that's just what I'd become used to over the years. But, when I did start to feel normal again after a training session and not spend the rest of the day in bed, it made me realize, damn, I was abusing my body. And now, even though I do get a bit upset at the fact that I can't do what I used to do, I honor and respect my body, and I will always ensure that I'm training to complement my health, not abuse it. And then likewise, just learning how to have fun when I go to the gym. If I am not up to a certain movement, or if I am going to the gym feeling a little bit fatigued, I will meet myself where I'm at to ensure that I'm still having a good session. That's not to say that I don't push myself, like still maybe 50% of the time I don't feel like training, but then I go and I just say I will do what I can, and it doesn't feel like a chore. It's okay to train for enjoyment and not train as hard. It's okay if not every session is optimal, or pushed close to failure. I mean, I think when you become evidence-based and you become someone who knows how to train effectively, you get so caught up in that. It's like everything has to be done optimally. Not really. Like, you can do a movement just because it's fun, even if it's not the best exercise to grow your glutes. You can purposely, pull back on the intensity if it means that you can fit in, a boxing class or an MMA class once a week. So the moral of the story is that the gym isn't everything. Don't get caught up in the obsession because it can bite you back. And I think alongside that, having more reasons for why you train. Obviously, it is about the physique and the aesthetics, but also focus on what your body can do. I think this is why a lot of female bodybuilders are shifting away from that and moving more into powerlifting, because it's a celebration of what your body can do rather than what it looks like. And there's nothing more empowering than that. No matter what you look like, you could weigh the same amount, have the same amount of muscle, have that little bit of belly pooch, and go into the gym, lift 10 kilos more on your deadlift and feel like a boss ass bitch, and it just lights you up and you feel so capable, and your self-esteem is linked with your skill set and your abilities rather than what you look like, which for the most part is not in your direct control or isn't very sustainable. And alongside that, you got to have other hobbies, okay? Don't box yourself into one thing. Don't be just a bodybuilder, because like I said, if you are just a bodybuilder, what happens if one day, God forbid, you can't bodybuild anymore? Who are you then? You're going to be lost. So expand, be more than just a bodybuilder. Get into powerlifting, get into another sport, explore your creative hobbies, have more substance. I think this is another thing. A lot of the bodybuilding culture is about, living and breathing bodybuilding, and they're all just muscle heads, right? Like, there's a reason why that phrase is thrown around a lot. He's just a meathead. Have some substance, bro. The last couple of lessons is give yourself some time off if you really feel like you need it. Prevent the burnout from completely obliterating you and preempt it. If you need to take a week off, 2 weeks off, do it. Don't feel guilty. In fact, you'll probably come back with a love bigger and stronger. And then lastly, beware of how you speak about your body. A lesson that I have learned, and I will never speak poorly about my body again. I will always look at myself in the mirror naked and point out the beautiful things about my body. And if I'm not happy with how I look, I always try to reframe it and try to zoom out and not scrutinize and just look at my physique as a whole, rather than compartmentalizing and looking at each individual muscle and what I'm not happy about and what's lagging. Really treat your body with respect and remember that you need to look at your body as a human, not as a bodybuilder. I no longer put off my happiness and self-esteem until I grow my ass a little bit more. I can have those things now, even if my ass is mediocre. I no longer put due dates on things. I no longer put pressure on myself to outperform myself every single week. And I've accepted that if I want bodybuilding to be a lifestyle, if I want to continue progressing and loving the gym and never burning out, then my expectations and my feelings towards the gym need to change. I take my time, I honor my health, I enjoy every phase, even through the plateaus, and just accept that this is life. And just like everything, there will be plateaus and things that I'm not happy about and things I'd like to improve. But at the end of the day, I am just happy to be able to lift again, happy to be able to look at my body with positivity again, and happy that I have a community of like-minded people. And most importantly, I have no expectations about my dream physique. And I'm okay with that because it means that I get to live my dream life. My name is Mary. I run Snatched Fitness Coaching, and I can help you get snatched, but in a healthy and empowering way. If you like this video and you want to hear more of my opinions, my journey through life, and all my controversial takes, then you should join my weekly newsletter, Morning Musings. These are 5 to 10 minute reads that will educate, inspire, raise questions, and really get you thinking deeply about things. So the link is in the description box if you want to sign up. I look forward to having you there, and I'll see y'all next week. Ciao.